Hi, and welcome to Schmooze with Suze. I'm Suze Montgomery. I've been doing this for a long time, probably close to 40 years, so I think we have it down. But tonight we have a topic that probably, if you live in the city of Ventura, you were affected by, and I'm talking about the Thomas Fire, which really, the origin was in Santa Paula. And from what I hear, the wind was blowing at a mile a minute with the flames, and all three of my guests were impacted by this tremendously, and losing of homes, potentially losing home, and now with water bills that don't make sense. So let's talk about this. I've got Christine Weber and her husband Nate, and also Rick Ray on the couch. You guys lost your house.
Sure did.
We did.
Yeah.
Well, how did you know the fire was coming?
Actually, our neighbor, Mike and Rebecca, just next to us, he had texted me because he had the 50 scanner app, and he's not a dramatic person by any means, and he told me I need to turn my car around and that the fire was heading towards Ventura, and it would be here in about 2 hours. And we get a lot of fire warnings because we're up on the Ventura hillside.
So you do get them.
We never get excited because, oh, there's going to be a fire, and we kind of think, oh, whatever, it'll be fine. But when Mike texted me, I need to turn my car around because it was coming so quickly, then I knew something was different. And our patio furniture in the backyard. Usually when there's heavy winds, it sort of vibrates across the patio, and it was just smacking the side of the patio. So it definitely felt like a different night, and it just was.
Were you home? Or you?
Yeah, so I mean, from my perspective, she was very prepared, and I was, I'd been on call the night before, so I was pretty tired. So
Nate's a physician.
I thought, honey, come on, it's gonna be okay. Nothing's gonna happen. We've been there for 6 years, and we've gone through a couple, nothing like this, but a couple scares where people told us to be prepared, and nothing happened. And so I was kind of telling her, like, let's go to bed. It's gonna be okay. And eventually we realized, as the flames were encroaching around our house from below and above, and the calls became a little more frequent from not only our neighbor, but another neighbor who's 2 houses down. He's a firefighter, as well as another neighbor who's about 2 blocks down. He's a firefighter, and they both texted and said, "Hey,
you need to leave.
You guys should probably leave."
It was coming down from below, and
the whole deck in the back was lit up like daytime.
Yeah.
So you could tell it was close. And then he didn't really get excited until I said, honey, I think we need to go. Just pack up and go. And he kind of took a look out there. And then when I saw the actual flames behind our house, then he said, oh my gosh, we need to go now. And so we got the kids and put them in the cars. And
well, you were somewhat ready.
I packed because I was so nervous. And it just felt like a funny night. And there were things that I didn't want to leave without, like their baby books and mommy stuff.
Yeah, how old are the kids? They're small, aren't they?
2 and 4.
Wow.
Yeah, they're
Were you
little.
frightened?
We tried not to make it traumatic for them, and so we waited until the cars were packed up and everything was ready, and then we woke them up and we said, we're going to Grandma's to have a sleepover, and that was it, because we didn't really know what was going to happen.
Yeah, they thought it was fun.
They did.
They didn't
thought it was
know
fun.
what was going on. So.
2 and 4, you really don't get it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Rick, you're neighbors, right?
Yes.
Yeah, we live just a couple doors down from Nate and Christine. They're wonderful neighbors, and we're so sad at the loss of their home. The whole neighborhood is devastated by it, and here to support you
Thank
in your
you.
comeback.
Yeah.
We had a little bit of a different experience because my wife works for NASA. She was napping on the couch when I was flicking through the TV channels and I saw this fire breaking out in Santa Paula and blowing towards us rather rapidly. I woke her up and she immediately got on her weather app. She's super technical this way, and she could see that the wind arrows were heading literally directly towards Ventura neighborhoods, and specifically right towards ours. So she said, you know what? Let's just pack up. Let's just get things together that we might want to get out of here with. And if it turns out it's not an emergency, then we just had a bit of good exercise. And it's a good thing we did, because I packed up my entire film business, our office, a lot of valuables, got our dog and cat who are indoors, and got them all loaded and ready to go. And then the lights were out, and after that, it got real hairy and scary after that.
Yeah.
As you mentioned, the fire coming up over the hillside was really a wake-up call. It was traveling at the rate of an acre per second.
That's amazing.
So to see that glow over the hill, and then to see the fire, and the advance flames were jumping the canyon ahead, so we could see across our canyon already over at the ranch. We could see fires breaking out over there.
And we're at the top of the hill, so you don't want to get stuck up there
Right.
behind all the cars, because if a lot of people are trying to evacuate at once, we're
Right.
at the very top of the hill.
Dead end.
And that would be very bad. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we wanted to be ahead of the game.
Yeah.
If we're going to evacuate, we wanted to get out sooner than later.
Yeah, the evacuation part was, we're on the west side, so we were evacuating. I got the VC alert on my phone. My husband did not, and subsequent to this, I've also heard that many people did not get the alerts, and found out a lot of information that probably should be coming out pretty soon about stuff that happened or should have happened that did not. I guess we did not have an emergency plan in the city of Ventura, from what I understand from all my careful questioning. And when, we had very little time to get ready, got the cat and shoved the cat in the box, carried the cat out and got the dog. We headed down to the shelter down at the fairgrounds, which was chaos.
Yeah.
There was no one in charge.
Oh.
It was the city, no city presence. The county was the OES, Office of
Yes.
Emergency Services, but they were not really organizing. And then the Salvation Army did not really do much organizing, and the Red Cross were not really organizing. So I walked in there, I'm this busybody. Okay, who's in charge?
Yeah.
Everybody
Raise their
did one of
hand.
these things, right?
No.
Here's a blanket. And I just looked at John and I'm like, this is chaos. And then I saw a bus pull up with some of my seniors from one of the retirement homes where I teach, and I gave John my purse and I said, I'm going to go get my babies. I got my babies. Take the purse, go, go, and I'll call you. I'll keep my phone on.
Yeah.
And then it was after that we just decided, when they dumped out Vista Del Mar in there, and then they had a lot of homeless that came in, and then since it was chaos and no one's in charge, I decided I was sleeping in the car. So we slept in the cars in the lot at the fairgrounds.
Oh, man.
Next morning, got up, went in, nobody in charge again. I had my little wind-up radio from, from Radio Shack with my batteries. I brought that with me. And all we could pull in was KNX from LA, and they had the Bel Air fire. So I think this taught us lessons, but there's also things that probably there was a lot of balls dropped. That's the way I looked at it. So
Yeah, well, I never got a text or
you
anything.
got nothing.
No, and I thought I was signed up on the app, but
Yeah.
maybe I did it incorrectly. I don't know. But it was a real wake-up call because the electricity went out. So you cannot just turn on the news. And then I kept Googling Thomas Fire, local updates, anything, fire, winds, and everything is several hours, out of date. And so if it was not for my neighbor, I wouldn't have heard the baby monitor.
Yeah.
I would not have heard anything. He probably saved all of our lives, Mike, because he texted me and I wouldn't have known. I would have just gone to bed. It was later at night and we'd have just woken up to flames. So
I can't even,
I think
to
I late
have only
night.
2 people die. a firefighter
really
and some
amazing.
strange thing. That was pretty amazing.
Amazing.
Oh, people on our street, well, we have 3 firefighters in this little area, and one couple from our church, they left because he's a firefighter, but then he felt bad and went back and honked the horn up and down the street. Because we have a lot of, not a lot of it, a
On
good
Mint,
amount.
I didn't hear that.
Down
Did
the
you hear
hill
that?
a little
He never
bit.
made it up Mint, but he was, I think he was
Up
on
Aliso,
Artemisia.
over-
and-
So I
And
think
so-
in these little neighborhoods like where we live, we all know each other. We
Yeah.
have a
Sure.
Christmas party
Close.
together.
Yeah.
We have a summer street block party together. Everyone's really connected.
Supportive, yeah.
We know almost every family in
Yeah.
our neighborhood personally. And that allowed us to network with each other.
Mm-hmm.
And I went over to a neighbor's house that was quiet, and I thought they might still be asleep, and we were really pounding on their door just to be sure, to take care that everyone in the neighborhood was accounted for. And fortunately, they'd left a small note on their door that said, "We've left," which was
Okay. Oh,
very
that's
a
good.
very
That's
good
good.
thing.
Yeah.
But we did not rely on civil authorities to help us in this situation. I don't remember my phone ever going off, the police or fire. They were so overwhelmed by the speed of this tragedy. A lot of
they were probably way under prepared. I mean, they were
I'm
at
sure.
the east end of town.
And the
did
worst
you-
was happening out there before
Correct.
us.
Correct, and then it moved so fast, they had no chance to catch up. And you had sprinklers on your roof,
Yes.
right?
So,
were they effective?
I think they probably helped. They certainly didn't hurt. I'm one of the few people, I think, in Ventura that has installed a sprinkler system on my roof. I did that because years ago, during the Tea Fire in Santa Barbara,
Right.
I saw an article of a man whose house was standing amongst 20 houses that were rubble. And he said his house was no different from anyone else's, except he'd put a sprinkler system on his roof. So when I moved in, I got some basic PVC pipe, hooked it up to my lawn watering system, a little valve. It cost me about $600 in labor and parts. And I wired rainbirds across the top of my home.
No kidding.
Why is this the first time I'm hearing about it?
Well, you should know about it because I told everyone in the neighborhood to come by and turn it on if I wasn't there.
Yeah.
But I recommend, and I believe firmly, that Ventura should take a hard look at this. During Australia's fires, the big fires that killed so many back in 2009, as those communities rebuilt, the Australian government required that rooftop sprinkler systems be installed on all new houses. And it's just, does it hurt? Certainly not. Does it help? I think. Fire follows the path of least resistance. And if there's a big wet house dripping with water, it's going to go around that.
Now, but you ran out of water. Weren't you trying to fight the fire with your garden hose
Yes.
or something?
So my wife and I left and went down just as you did and many other people did, and we watched the fire from down below. But then we heard a couple of neighbors had gone back up into the neighborhood to see what was happening, because you really couldn't tell whose houses were burning and whose weren't. It was
Okay.
easy to mistake it. And they texted us from up on the hill, and they said, there's basically no one up here. Nate and Christine's house was already on fire. There was hardly any police or fire up there. And they said, if you want to get up here, your sprinkler system is working. But we're alone up here and we could use the help. They didn't ask me to help. They just kind of indicated that they were fighting fires with garden hoses. And so as soon as I heard that, I thought, I'm going back. I wouldn't have gone back on my own without these kind of brave neighbors sort of spurring it on. But once I got up there in the neighborhood, your house was fully engulfed and other houses down in the canyon, and the sparks were unbelievable. Flying through, landing on porches, starting, porch furniture on fire and some of the vegetation in the area. And if we weren't fighting that, a group of us, about 6 of us with garden hoses, that fire would have burned our entire region. But then about 2:30 in the morning, we were really successful and we had a fire truck arrive and was helping out. Just like that, all water shut off. It wasn't like the pressure went down. It was like someone just turned off an electrical switch. The water just went off. For the firefighters as well as what I'd call our garden hose crew. And at that point, things got scary because there was plenty of fire around us, plenty of danger, and we had no tools to fight it.
What are the firefighters, just standing there watching this happen?
Well, they were doing what they could. They were very frustrated, though, and we could hear on their radio that other firefighters all across the hills had also lost water at different times during the evening as I stayed there with them. So the water, what we don't realize is we have these 250,000 gallon tanks on the hill, but they're fed through a pumping system from the lowlands, which is electrically based. So when electricity goes out in our city,
They're useless.
basically those tanks don't refill, they simply drain. And what we did, and I suppose all the neighborhoods did, was to drain those tanks. In order to regenerate the power to those tanks requires, from what I understand, 3 individuals with pickup trucks and generators on the back who have to drive up to some location and manually hook up a generator to power the pump. So that's completely inefficient and ineffective. And if we have another tragedy of any kind like this, where the electricity goes out, a very basic thing that happens, we could face a complete water shortage, depletion.
Well, so I'm thinking that we need to do something to, if we have an emergency plan, which I don't know if we do or not, I'm thinking if we did, it was woefully insufficient and it didn't work, and then the water is situation, this is going to be an issue. The city's going to have to address this and remediate this. I mean, God knows what's going to come next. I mean, we're due for an earthquake, right?
Or a tsunami, or
We're due for something. So we need a really well-crafted emergency plan with all the basic services involved in it. It doesn't sound like we have one.
I would say that part of the problem that we have now in the city is that we're facing a massive lawsuit over the loss of water. And as a result, what I found is that my questions go unanswered. This is actually the opposite of a good plan. No one wants to speak up because, of course, they could be held liable for what they say. So the city is under a bit of a gag order to not speak about this loss of water or any other problems that might have gone wrong that could be used against them in a court of law. This doesn't help the general public at all. I can understand why they're doing it this way, but it's almost like backing away and hiding from an issue that is so urgently in need of being addressed.
Well, it needs to be transparent for everyone to understand. If we have an emergency plan, where is it? How does it work? What's the evacuation? Where do you go? I mean, there is no transparency on that note. So and the communication is not there. So there will be lawsuits. I mean, Santa Rosa, when they went through this, Santa Rosa figured it out, but it took them a while. But they had a tremendous amount of lost lives. I think it was something like 44 or 45. Mm-hmm. But they figured out what to do because they really didn't understand it. They never went through that also, but they got it. So I would suggest that whoever the powers that be at City Hall pay attention to what happened in Santa Rosa and tune into that, at least have some kind of dialogue with those people to figure it out.
It would be a good
This
idea.
is going to be, I don't know if the city, I went to a meeting last night with the city, and they did say that they had some kind of insurance. There is some kind of guarantee on the insurance, but how far does that go? We don't know. Again, I want answers. I'm like you. I didn't lose anything outside of smoke damage and, the house with, we couldn't breathe and whatever. We didn't lose actual property. But we could have. I mean, it raced all the way down to the bottom of the hill where we live. So it was, and you have to go through all this time-consuming reconstruction of events. Do you have nightmares? I mean,
No. I think the reality of how much work it is going to be is finally setting in.
Staggering.
It's crazy. I mean, even the decision on the debris removal took hours because your everyone's insurance is different, and you go down to the government center and they want signatures so they can get funding, but they don't really know everyone's policy. And so, for example, in our situation, it would have been not a good idea. For most people, it probably would. It is a good idea to opt in, but we have so many caissons, and it was just very complicated. And so no one has any information for us. I just have to go. He works so much. I'm just trying to figure it out on my own.
Wade your way through all this
I'm wading my way through this
and
mess.
how do you know where to go? There's
Oh
no
my gosh.
blueprint.
You go to one place and then it just opens
don't know.
Pandora's box up. Oh, no, people, everyone's so green. They don't know what's going on. They can give you information and then they give you the name of someone else who has more information. And so we're just trying our best and trying not to get overwhelmed with it, because we know it's a long process. It's going to be at least a year and a half, and we don't even have our debris removal started, although we have our architect and our contractor. And fortunately for us, my dad owned a homeowners insurance company for over 30 years, and so he's been guiding us. But for people who don't have that, I feel so bad for them, because the day of the fire, he said, call your insurance. And I think a lot of people wouldn't have even thought of that. And then the next thing he said, okay, you filed your claim, get a rental that's furnished. And so we just thought, how would we ever know to even do
And
that?
how do you know where to find a rental that's furnished? No,
Oh
there's
my
no
gosh,
furnished
there's nothing to
rentals.
rent in Ventura anyway. Yeah, so it was just this whole process, and then once you get to the next step, then you realize how much the other steps are coming. And it's just hard because when you go through insurance, it's not like you're just paying out of pocket and you can just pick your tile out whenever. And so we're just trying to stay positive. I keep looking at my pictures on Pinterest, like my house is gonna look like this. It's gonna be amazing. Because otherwise, you would just get so overwhelmed.
You'd be at the bottom of the well.
You just would just
bottom
throw
out.
in the towel, because it's like a part-time job. It's so much work.
I can imagine.
It's
it would
crazy.
be.
Yeah, and all these decisions, even just picking the appliances. I'm like,
But you know what's difficult? There's no roadmap to
There's
how
no
to do this.
roadmap.
But thank God your dad jumped in. But then again, you know,
Even with
there's
that.
race. Because I heard about tremendous resources. I mean, I was on Facebook, just resourcing like constantly.
Yeah.
In fact, I was at Flynn's office. I was driving away from the surgery, and I was an hour out of surgery. I was resourcing.
oh wow.
I was still because I felt like I had to do something to help, but I didn't know. I felt so impotent. I didn't know what to do. And I think a lot of people did. They put
Yeah.
together something up at, up at Poinsettia Pavilion. Did you
Yes.
access that at all?
Yes.
We started there, and it was
Yeah.
pretty helpful because they had that was actually very well organized.
Okay.
You walk in, you sign in, they get your information, and then they have 3 rows, and they have everyone from insurance and that was so helpful because you just go to a little station and they don't charge you. They expedite over, I think, 24-hour, 48-hour, your birth
Nice.
certificate, all your documents. They just want to know where you were born and your name, no questions asked. And most of the community has been so supportive. I emailed Target, I lost a Christmas present, a photo gift, and I couldn't figure out how to reorder it. It was my dad's like mug with the pictures, and they just sent it for free. You know, so many people
Wow.
have been supportive. Fox
yeah.
Jeweler, they gave away free necklaces, and the community has been so supportive, and that definitely offsets all this stress and the confusion from the other side. So that helps. I mean, and
Yeah, the details and the technical aspects of rebuilding are overwhelming, and as you said, the plan that's gonna need to develop for the future of any future disaster definitely needs to be there. But I gotta say, the support from the community, the support from our neighbors,
church, friends.
more
community does
overwhelming
Work,
than losing our home.
It was
I mean, it's
amazing.
unbelievable.
We were blown
Very
away.
supported.
This, there's the pitfalls, but also the other side, which is
Yeah.
this town is amazing, in the
amazing.
way it cares for each
Yeah.
other.
Yeah.
There's so
Amazing.
many genuinely good people in this town that
Yes.
will help.
Yes.
They don't even need to be asked.
Yeah.
I mean, they'll just step up and help.
Yeah.
But that, I love that about this
Yeah.
town. But I get frustrated by the bureaucracy
Sure.
of the other stuff,
Right.
because I'm sitting there thinking, tax dollars, I'm paying for this, and what am I getting? Okay, or
Yeah.
how does this work? Or just talk to me, tell me, help me figure this out.
Yeah.
It's difficult.
One thing that was very unfortunate, in my opinion, was that Ventura Water went ahead and sent out bills to its customers this month. Many people had lost their homes. Many people had used water to fight the fires. And the bills were widely divergent and very strange.
What?
So people began to report on Nextdoor, kind of the community sourcing website, that they were getting these bizarre bills, even though their houses had burned down or were closed.
That's
In some cases, I mean, it's just anecdotal what we're hearing, but in some cases, bills up to 10 times what their normal water bill is. Now, for a utility that let us down on some level by having a very antiquated system that eventually ran out of water. You think someone would have just kind of thought this through. They would have said, maybe we ought to take a look at these bills before we send them out to people whose homes have just burned.
Well, we've always been a reactive town when it comes to something like this kind of bureaucracy. It's never been proactive. You know, we have an opportunity coming up in 2018, and not only nationally with midterms, but we have elections coming up in districting within the city of Ventura. I started the conversation with districting 8 years ago saying, hey, we're in violation of the 2001 Voters Act. Why don't we get on board with this? Because there's an attorney firm that's going up and down the swath of California suing all these non-compliant towns, and we're going to be one of those if we don't get on board. Well, what happens? We get sued, of course, what a surprise. And that was back in October. We had 90 days to get compliant. So now we're going to be districting. Gee whiz, what a thought. But I think, again, by being, you know, looking at the local elections here in the city of Ventura, because all politics are local, we need to really look at people that will be running, or find people that we can have confidence in, that will make decisions with our tax dollars and be more proactive. And that's just for everybody listening tonight. Get out there and find people in your neighborhood that have a good enough heart that wants to run. I'll train them, but just send them my way. We need to do something about that. Those are my little soapbox for the moment. So, I don't know, I just don't know what to say to you because of the pain that you've all been through. My heart hurts for you. I mean, I just wish we could start again and never ever happened.
I have to say about these two right here, they are the most positive people I know.
Honest to God, you are.
I mean, they are so upbeat every day about how they're handling this. And just before their house burned, they were just such a positive, upbeat couple in our neighborhood, just always helpful. And, you know, and that's Ventura for you. But for
We'll be
their
back.
positive attitude, you're coming back, and we can't wait.
We are.
We actually
will be
looked at
back.
real estate outside of our neighborhood because it would be such an easy option. And part of the reason we chose to build on our old site, besides the fact that we had our engagement party there, I was in labor with both our children there, is the community on that street.
Yeah.
And I thought, how can we leave Mike? He pretty much
can't.
saved us. I
Yeah.
mean,
You can't.
they've
It's
babysat
family.
our
It's family.
children.
And we'd be so sad if you didn't come
Thank
back.
you.
We'd be missing a piece.
We'll have
as
a
well.
Christmas party, 20
Invite me.
something. You're invited, yes.
And I think we're wrapping it up, but I want to thank all of you for opening your hearts and sharing what your experiences were. It really means a lot to me on a personal level, so thank you for doing
Thanks
what
for
you're
having
doing.
us.
Yeah,
Thank
thank you
you
for
Thank
having
you.
us.
fighting for what you deserve to have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching us, and join us again next week. And remember, get involved. Get off the couch and do something.
Get off the couch.
We'll see you next week.